Welcome everybody to another day. Today is Friday, so whoever is here, shkoyach for coming, and whoever's not here, I understand. It's okay. It's not a big deal. But we are going to start, and we're going to jump right in. Tachlis habriya hisgalos malchus yisbarach. So we're talking about the purpose of creation. What's it going to look like once we understand the purpose of creation? Now we know what each person will think, and each opinion will be on what Geulah is going to look like. So, continuing with Tachlis Abriya, so we did before, yesterday we did Yidiyas Hashem, the knowledge of God, and today we are going to do Tachlis Abriya is the revelation of Hashem's kingship. His Galus Malchusa Yisbarach. B'shar Yichud V'Amuna. In the Shar Yichud of Amuna Perek Zayin, case of Admar Azogin, the Alter Rebbe writes, Hinehu Yidua, it is known lakol to everyone. Ki Tachlis Habrias Ha'olam, the purpose of creation. Ubishvil His Galus Malchusa Yisbarach is for the revelation of Hashem's kingship. And in the same style of the Alter Rebbe's other Chassidis, what is the beginning of creation? Was that it came up to Hashem's desire. Ana emlech, I want to rule. I want to be a king. That explains in many places. The revelation of God's kingship, it is not through intellectual understanding and knowledge. Of the creations, but Gadlusay of the greatness of God. It is specifically through nullifying and through bowing with Kabbalas oil in front of Hashem. That a person nullifies his desires and his intellect in front of Hashem, and before Hashem's desires and Hashem's will and his commands, like servants and slaves that subjugate and bow in front of kings, and they serve the king with Kabbalas oil. Kabbalas oil zu, and this Kabbalas oil, it expresses itself in the fulfillment of the decrees, the 613 commandments of the Jews and the 7 commandments of Bnei Noach, that are called in the by Chazal, they are called in multiple places as Gzeiras Melech and the Mitzvahs Melech, the decrees of a king and the commandments of a king. That this helps us define the obligation that is upon us to fulfill the mitzvahs Yisbarach b'shleimus properly, like the obligation of a servant to fulfill the command of his master and his king. That when we come to mitzvahs, when we do them, we have to approach them as Kabbalas oil, as the yoke, accepting the yoke of the mitzvahs, which comes after accepting the yoke of the kingship of Hashem. I want it, but what can I do? Hashem commanded, my Father in heaven commanded me, and therefore I have to listen. Like the words of the Rambam, even when you understand the reasons of the mitzvahs, nevertheless, you cannot fulfill them. You should not fulfill them because the logic takes you there. First and foremost, the command that God, that Moshe commanded in Torah, with the acceptance of the yoke of Hashem. So what is the purpose of revealing Hashem's kingship in the world? Started to be felt mainly when they left Mitzrayim and when they received the Torah. That Hashem made a covenant with the Jews to be as a king for them. And we, the Jews, will be servants to Hashem. You will serve Hashem in this mountain, Har Sinai, the mountain that the Torah was given. For me, the Jews will be as slaves, as servants. Avodah, they are my servants. That I took them out of Eretz Mitzrayim. Bnei Yisrael mitzidam. And with regard to the Jews, they accepted. They accepted Hashem's kingship over them willingly. Ba'amram, when they say Hashem yimlech le'olam v'ad, Hashem will rule forever and ever. Hashem yisbarach mitzidai gilas malchus el bnei Yisrael. Be'amrei anochi avalekecha. And Hashem revealed His kingship on the Jews when He says, Anochi avalekecha, I am Hashem your God. Yisoid bris zu tziva yisanu b'Hashem b'tarig mitzvah satira. And on this foundation, with this covenant, Hashem commanded us 613 mitzvahs in Torah. Which is 613 commandments that a king made on his nation. The Umnam. However, only the revelation of Hashem's kingship was only revealed to the Jews. What was the purpose of the Matan Torah? Was that the Jews should then take the revelation of Hashem's kingship and bring it down and draw it down into the entire world. And in the continuation of the situation of Matan Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu commanded the Jews to go out into the world and to get people to fulfill the 7 mitzvahs of the children of Noach. And these commandments expresses Hashem's kingship on all the nations. And that can be felt the prophecy and the testimony that Hashem will be a king over all the lands. And the continuation and the completion of this, that when David HaMelech will be anointed over the Jews. Ki al kisei malchus David. On the chair of Malchus David, it says, Shehu kisei malchus Hashem Yisrael. It is the chair of Hashem's kingship over the Jews. Because the king that sits on the throne has to have the proper nullification in front of Hashem. To the extent that his kingship over the nation, it is only the expression and the effect of Hashem's kingship over them. And through the king, Hashem's kingship is revealed over the Jews and over the entire world. And therefore, the inner, the ha'ikari, and the fundamental purpose shall ha'melech of the king is lahanigis hamedina v'ha'am derech ha'torah v'lachapes Yisrael v'ha'olam kulu l'kaimes kol mitzvos yisbarach. The fundamental and internal purpose of a king is to lead the country and the nation in a way of Torah, and to force the Jews and the entire world to bend the Jews to fulfill the mitzvahs, the commandments of Hashem. Like the Rambam says, his entire being and the entire purpose is going to be to strengthen the knowledge of truth, and to fill the world with righteousness. And according to all of this, we can understand and we can explain what the days of Moshiach, the meaning is, and the meaning of Melech HaMoshiach. The king, the rulership of Mashiach, is going to be strong, and he's going to affect and influence all the Jews in the entire world, to serve God. And with this, and with this will be revealed God's kingship in the fullest way. All of these things are brought out strongly in the words of the Rambam, in the laws of Malachim and wars, and Melech HaMoshiach in the end of his sefer. That superficially it seems very similar to the laws of tshuva. But behizbaininus neisefes, with more introspection and meditation, mizbarer, it will be clarified that the description of the days of Mashiach shebehilchos Melech HaMoshiach, that in the halachos of the king of Mashiach, the king Mashiach, who tiur shein legamri, it's a completely different description. Why? Behilchos tshuva, Yemei Mashiach metorim kematzav shel shleimus yidias Hashem be'asaga sichos kanal. In the laws of tshuva, the Rambam describes Yemei Mashiach as a situation where there's going a complete knowledge of Hashem and understanding, and an intellectual understanding. Ve'elu behilchos Melech HaMoshiach, Harambam klal lo yimazker es inyan shel yidias Hashem. The Rambam does not at all mention the concept of knowledge of Hashem. It only talks about the return of David's kingdom to what it used to be. Kiyum ha-mitzvahs kulam, fulfilling all of the mitzvahs. V'tikanu ha'umayis kulam, and fixing all the nations la'avodas Hashem, to serve God. U'l'shein Hashem, what's the lashon of the Rambam? HaMelech HaMoshiach also lamed la'hachzer malchus David l'yoshen l'mamshel l'rishayna v'chayzrin kol ha'mishpatim b'yamav, so on and so forth. V'im yamed melech min beis David huga v'atayra v'esik v'mitzvahs ki David aviv v'hitzliya v'Yakov kol Yisrael leilach bo l'chazik bidka v'yilchem echem es Hashem. All of these things. So what do we learn from these things? We learn a few things. Number one, what is the implication of the Yemei Mashiach? Matziv shel hizgalus malchus Hashem al kol baya olam al yidei chazaras malchus beis David liyeshna v'kim kol mitzvos shleimus. It's going to be a situation where there's going to be a revelation of Hashem's kingship on everyone in the world through the kingdom of the Davidic kingdom returning to its glory and fulfilling all of the mitzvahs perfectly. Kasher kol Yisrael yekaimu tarek mitzvahs shelahem, that when the Jews will fulfill their 613 mitzvahs, v'chol ha'umas yavdu es Hashem b'zayin mitzvahs shelahem, and all the nations will serve God with their 7 mitzvahs. So that's Yemei Mashiach. Second thing, demusa shel Melech HaMoshiach. So what is, now let's talk about Melech HaMoshiach. Behilchos elu harambam. So in these halachos, the Rambam mitar as Demusa shel Mashiach. He describes the Demusa Mashiach in a different way. The Rambam doesn't mention at all the great wisdom and the great prophecy that Mashiach will have. He stresses different sides. In his personality, how does he describe? He describes him kemelech gibar, like a strong king, who forces and who compels the Jews to go in the way of Torah. And he wages war. He fights against anybody that disturbs this. What's the reason for that? Because the power and the mission that Moshiach has, to bring the complete fulfillment of mitzvahs in a practical way, in a way of Kabbalah Soil, accepting the yoke of Hashem, it's mainly mikoyach, from the power hayosai, being melech giber, to be a strong king who has the ability, and this does not come from him being wise and a big prophet. It comes from the very simple fact that he's a king, and a king has power that rabbis don't have, that prophets don't have, and most leaders do not have. That's number 2. So this is another description of Melech HaMoshiach. Number 3, Alpi Gisha Zu Movin Oid Inyan Ikri. So in this glance, in this perspective, we understand another fundamental point. She'ein liras es Yemei Mashiach rak ketachana b'derech l'chai olam haba. So we said yesterday, which I was very excited about, that Yemei Mashiach, the Rambam describes it as basically the days that we can perfectly learn Torah and fulfill mitzvahs in order to merit to Yemais Mashiach. So he says over here that it's not only, you're not supposed to see Yemais Mashiach only as a time where, it'll give us comfort and will be more calm in the fulfillment of the mitzvahs in order to get us to Yemais Mashiach, to Chayei Olam Haba. Elagam, also, in addition to that, uve'ikr, and most importantly and fundamentally, ki inyan betachlis la'atzmam. Yemais Mashiach is a purpose on itself. Why? Because the purpose of revealing Hashem's kingship in the world is revealed in Yemais Mashiach, not in Chayei Olam Haba. Why? Because in Yemais Mashiach, how does it express itself? It expresses itself in fulfillment. Fulfilling Torah mitzvahs in this world. And not in the worlds of souls. There's no fulfilling of mitzvahs. There's no service of a slave or a servant. All there is in that time in the Olam Haba is understanding the greatness of Hashem. However, Behilchos Melech HaMoshiach, the laws of Melech HaMoshiach, the Rambam mismaked bevir inyanim shel Yemais Mashiach k'shla'atzmam. The Rambam goes and explains and describes the concept of Yemais Mashiach for itself. The inyan shel Olam Haba nizkar rak b'derech agav, and the concept, the idea of Olam Haba, is found in circular way. We're not really talking about it. It's kind of brought in as an aside. We will explain this in more detail in this sefer, in the continuation of the prakim. We will end there today because today is Friday, Baruch Hashem. Even though Shabbos starts later, I just to give a little practical thing before we as we end the shiur. I think it's very, very awesome that I was having a discussion about the Rebbe says that we're in the world, that Geulah is in the world, Moshiach is here, and all these things. All we have to do is get ready to greet Moshiach. So we were talking about practically what does that mean. So I said I think practically it means that we have to literally start getting ourselves ready. So there's a concept that the years, each millennium is split up into what is divided like a week. So each millennium has a day. It's called the cosmic week. And right now we're holding in a Friday afternoon. So I said, I told everybody, I think something practical that we can do is to like bring in, like the Rebbe says, to try to get the Geulah to come right now as early as possible. That we should be makir, that we should recognize, and we should be machir, we should declare that the Geulah should be here already. So I said that I think everybody should be ready for Shabbos at least 10 minutes before Licht Benchen. Not to bring in Shabbos early because there's a whole machlikas. If it's the right thing to do, if it's not the right, whatever, you don't have to bring in Shabbos early, but to be ready for Shabbos early. To be able to enter Shabbos b'derech menucha and to show the Eibishter that we are ready now. We don't have to wait until the time that is set for us. Rather, it should happen now. And l'chaim, Adonenu Merinu v'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach le'olam vad. A good Shabbos, everybody. It should be a Yom Shekol Shabbos and Menucha l'chai. Love him now. L'chaim u'livracha. A good Shabbos.